welcome to Council today. Please join me for a karakia. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te tonga, kina ki uta, ki tara ki tai, e hiaki ana te atakura, he tio, he huka, he auhu, tihei, mauri ora. I declare the meeting open. Welcome everyone. Please let me or I'll let you know if you intend to leave the meeting. I'm just going to go through some house admin stuff before we adjourn for the LTP committee. Apologies. Do we have Councillor Weneta online yet? Should we do him as late? Okay. I move the motion that Councillor Weneta will arrive late. Deputy Mayor will second. Let's go to a vote. Councillor Calvert, we just need your vote. And that has passed. Thank you very much. No announcements by the Mayor. Do we have any conflict of interest declarations? Nope. I move the motion to confirm the minutes from the 11th of September. Deputy Mayor will second. Let's go to a vote. And that is passed. There are no items not on the agenda, and we don't have public participation for Council in particular. We'll now move to Councillor Matthews, who will assume the chair for committee.
Just had to remove the baubles of office. No mai haere mai. Welcome to the Long-Term Plan Finance and Performance Committee. I won't do a karakia as we've just done one. Apologies for this meeting. Oh, Councillor Weneta for lateness. Shall we do that again? I'll move it. Councillor Panovich will second. We'll put that one to the vote. We'll just put them in the minutes as many times as we can. Councillor Calvert, have you voted? Yep, okay, great. We'll close that off. That is carried. Are there any conflict of interest declarations? There appear to be none. We move to confirmation of the minutes. Those are the minutes from our meeting held on the 20th of August. I will move. Councillor Panovich will second. Inai ka potiatia te motini. I now put the motion which has been moved and seconded. Ka whakapuaki au, kua mana te motini. I declare the motion carried. We now move to public participation. No mai Joan Buchanan. Welcome, Joan, and you have 10 minutes, including time for questions, if you'd like to leave it. Thank you.
Tēnā koutou katoa. To say that we are exasperated and remain exasperated is an understatement. The light that has been shining has been Iona, and we really want to acknowledge the work that Iona has done. She has taken the time to listen to us. She's taken the time to understand the issue, and we're very, very, very grateful. As just to recap, but not be redundant, we lost our rights with no Lagoima. We lost our rights to go to ombudsman, and there remains very little, if any, accountability that TTM has to its tenants. In April, Rebecca, you will recall that I contacted you to talk to you and discuss these issues. That was in April. Then we had a meeting with Julianne Genter, and then I think the thing went from we wanted to have a meeting with some counselors. Jordy, you were contacted, that then it bounced to Jordy, and then Rebecca called TTM to talk to Julianne Genter's office. Never talking to us. Frustrated, absolutely. We welcome engagement with council. We welcome engagement. Jordy, we welcome engagement. I know that housing's a priority. Lori, thank you. You had a meeting with the councillors, but you didn't talk to us. And there's two examples.
Joan, could I just encourage you to limit your comments about individual councillors and
Okay.
get to the main points? Thank you.
Okay. The councillors that met with TTM did not meet with us beforehand, although Iona had engagement with us. And I'll give you a really good example of the problems that we have, is that it was raised, and only yesterday did we get to talk to TTM about what our concerns were. This toilet sign was told to the councillors that they're now going to have someone check those. And I said yesterday, but what are they checking it against? That it's friendly to councillors or to tenants, that it's friendly and respectful, nothing, no policy like that. And then I said to them, do you really think this sign is going to stop someone from actually paying in the elevator? No. And they say, well, how would you do it? You talk to tenants, you respect tenants, you look for respect from tenants, and that's how things should work. We reckon, and I know that some people would say it's lower than this, but we reckon that the respect that tenants have for TTM's management ranges between 1 and 2 out of 10. This has to change, and it has to change by them saying what they're going to do and doing what they say. The other example, when the councillors met, and I understand that some of the councillors are going to be meeting regularly, and we're going to put the complaints process, TTM says, and the complaints process is going to be advertised here and put there. As far as we're concerned, if that happens, all that will achieve is putting dysfunction on steroids. The complaint process does not work, has not worked, and will not work. Now, we are not just being critical. We have tenants here. I've been told there's tenants here supporting me. There's other tenants that that it's school holidays and they couldn't attend. I said, bring your kids, then they can see how democracy works. But there's all sorts of problems with that. Now, we've had the good fortune, and do you want to pass those out? Of meeting this gentleman, David, from the Sustainability Trust. These are the solutions, and I'll let him speak to it briefly.
Tēnā koe, kia ora council. My name's David Pearce. I'm head of Healthy Housing Services at Sustainability Trust. I've been supporting Joan for the last 6 weeks when she reached out to us concerned about overheating at Mansfield Street apartments. We know a lot about cold damp housing in this country, but overheating is an emerging issue. Great thing about Joan is that not only has she identified the problem, but she has also come up with some great solutions on a platter here for you. I'll refer to you the documents here. Essentially, the apartments, the west-facing apartments at Mansfield Street, owned by Te Toi Mahana, have very poor circulation, air circulation. West-facing apartments have no means to access the cooler air on the eastern side of the building. So we're really looking at solutions and encourage council to look at solutions to ensure that the apartments are cool through summer. We've had research done to show that the apartments are overheating. It's a real concern for vulnerable tenants, particularly tenants who are health compromised. Should I refer to
The two solutions.
So the two solutions, this is the proof of the overheating. This is a lampshade. It's basically melted. And if I can just draw your attention to page 2 of the document, we have.
This isn't the only one.
We look. So we're looking at page 3. We're looking at the viable solution for quick and easy implementation. There's the option of the secure screen door, but we particularly like the passive fan exhaust circulation. The idea is to install, very cheap to install, fans in the windows, inset, to encourage the circulation of cool air through those west-facing apartments.
I'd like to say before we take questions that if anyone thinks that money is tight, we know what being tight with money is more than anyone else does. TTM is, the power imbalance with TTM is extraordinary. And it's been evidenced by their 14-day notice that we understand they're going to be retracting and hopefully apologizing for. But that's only one example of their missing the point altogether. We are not interested in hearing, if you want to say anything about lack of money. Our solution probably is anywhere between $50,000 and $70,000. This document was prepared as a professional document when we had, what was it, 4 engineers, 2 architects, and 1 builder has looked at this and says that it's good options. We can move now into looking at doing a prototype and then upscaling and implementing, but we can't do that when the time is ticking over, when the summer is coming. You have an opportunity to lead the country in retrofitting ventilation of buildings, but we can't do that unless someone tells the staff at council to get moving on it. We were told in February that TTM was working on it, and all we know they've done is drafted a letter to get us a debt. Not good enough. So we've done the work in 3 weeks. This has been done. So we've got 1.5 minutes. Questions, please, before I summarize.
We've got time for one quick question. Councillor Chung.
Thanks very much for coming in this morning. I'm just wondering, does your tenants organisation in your flats work with Barclay Dallard tenants and Central Park flats at all?
We're not an organised. TTM has not allowed anyone to be organised. They only have focus groups that they handpick and tell them what to think. Now, Rebecca, you can laugh, but it's true.
Laugh. Thank you, Joan.
I had a public meeting with tenants 2 weeks ago, and only 2 tenants turned up and gave me their
Councillor,
concerns.
I've got another question from Deputy Mayor Fung. Thanks.
Kia ora, Joan. Thank you for coming in, and also thank you for doing this, Mahi. Just have you forwarded? Has this gone to the CEO
I've worked
yet?
very much with the chair, which is a board member that has engaged respectfully.
Great.
And he's passed it on to Jonathan. And with Iona's initiative, finally we got to meet yesterday for half an hour.
Great. Okay, so he's got this list of solutions.
Yes, we need everyone to be rowing in the same direction, pulling in the same way to make this happen.
Thank you.
We don't want it to fall into the void.
Yeah, thank you.
Got a final comment to make, Joan. We're nearly out of time.
We're not interested in being managed and told that there's a lot of competition for funding. We're interested, we've been working with professionals to do this. It can be done, it should be done, it should have been done a long time ago. Please, any way any of you can make pressure, put pressure, urgency, whatever, summer is coming, and you've got tenants. We don't need to hear what's wrong. We know what's wrong, and we're prepared to overcome those obstacles to make it happen. And yes, Rebecca, I will be obedient. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.
I'd now like to welcome Nancy and Jackie. No Mai. I understand you're going to speak together, so you're going to take 10 minutes, is that right?
Yes, well, I'll speak.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll just set the clock for 10 minutes for both of you. Welcome.
I just have to get my slideshow because I'm going to read from here because I can't see that far away. Here we go. Kia ora, Madam Mayor, councillors and members of Kōrau Tōtōpū. As Te Toi Mahana tenants, we are here to speak on behalf of those who are sharing 46 Nairn Street. We are Nancy Nichols Acevedo and Jackie Fuller, pensioners who have lived on the 9th floor of the Berkeley Dallard apartment since September 2014. We had looked forward to aging in place, but now we face two major disruptions: the Hup 2 Nan Street build, now until 2028, and the Berkeley Dallard seismic upgrades from 2032 to 34. Our waka are moored with Te Toi Mahana, and we wish to help them succeed. We seek to provide lived experience, ensuring that tenant voices are heard early on and respected throughout the process. Until April 2017, when they were deemed an earthquake risk, city housing tenants lived in 16 lovely garden townhouses. Each street-facing unit had driveway access, landscaping, and private rear gardens. The units were finally demolished in November 2019. The grassy slope was returned to green space. Hoardings were erected around the lot fronting Nairn Street, signaling plans for redevelopment. We have watched this site lie fallow for 6 years. We welcome new, warm, safe, dry homes. However, this new build proposal raises serious issues for us. 69 units in 7 buildings is a 430% jump in occupancy, increasing site coverage from 50 to 100%. Including 11 off-street car parks, the building requires major earthworks, regrading our driveway, removing our mature trees and footpaths. This worsens pedestrian safety and tenancy overheating issues. We are promised lovely Tamara-type buildings. However, design details do not include new community amenities or any shared open spaces. This proposal will not contribute to a well-functioning urban environment. On the contrary, it negatively impacts our tenant well-being, pedestrian links, shared services, site amenities, and neighborhood cohesion. It adds to vehicle congestion along existing transport corridors, impairs access to amenities and opportunities for walkers and other active travelers, leads to overcrowding issues and increased demand on infrastructure services. It will not be a more dynamic, livable, and attractive neighborhood. This high-density development is not density done well. This new block threatens our sense of well-being and strains mental health resilience, encroaching on our green space, communal areas, and restorative environments. It very clearly disconnects Nairn Street from Brooklyn Road. Our driveway will be an unwelcoming urban pinch point, a concrete-like, tunnel-like enclosure impacting pedestrian flow and safe vehicle access and egress. Ghettoization threatens the immediate area with 488 Te Toi Mahana tenancies across 5 buildings. Our key threats: without car parking, the Nan Street units are not accessible for shoppers, seniors, or the mobility impaired. Heavy vehicle movements worsen congestion, creating safety hazards and restricting travel options. Tenants are deprived of quiet enjoyment without any compensation or an opportunity to relocate. Major earthworks will obstruct building and emergency vehicle access, waste collection, and recycling services. Without pedestrian links, there is no safe access to the nearby transport corridor, and our busy vehicle driveway is crowded with walkers. There is no secure cycle storage or waste management provisions, while access to play spaces and our community garden is obstructed. We take pleasure in culture and heritage amenities like the Nairn Street Cottage and the Commonwealth Walkway. They face service disruption from dust, noise, heavy vehicle traffic, earth movements, and loss of sunlight. Tenant well-being and minimizing tenant disruption at the heart of HUP 2 planning. The well-being of our 46 Nan Street tenants is not reflected in these HUP 2 plans. There is significant tenant disruption. Design flaws lead to Te Toimahana service delivery obstacles. In April 2025, your officers advised you consultation for the HUP 2 business case was satisfied by previous long-term plan socialization. Further engagement was discretionary depending on what more there was to learn. Clearly, there is a lot more to learn. Further engagement on the HUP 2 36 to 64 Nan Street project must involve tenants and the local community. We need to contribute meaningfully before detailed sign-off.
I'm Jackie Fuller. I'm going to talk about tenant well-being from my perspective. I'm an independent person with mild mobility issues. The proposed plans will impact negatively on my ability to maintain the level of independence and well-being that I currently enjoy. I walk around that area every day for recreation and fitness and frequently use the paths, taking pleasure in the trees and green space so close to where I live, engaging with other tenants from Central Park and the locals who use the paths to access Central Park. The yellow overlay shows the existing paths. If these are removed, I will no longer meet other tenants on an informal basis that added to my sense of well-being and community, and the locals will be excluded from easy access to Central Park and Brooklyn Road, which will reduce our sense of being part of a wider community. Our complexes will be an island. As there is no footpath on the plans from Berkeley Dallard to Nan Street shown, my only means of safe exit and entrance to Berkeley Dallard will be at the rear of the building, as shown on the slide. The thought of always having to carry shopping up and down those steps as I grow older is daunting and depressing. I'm also concerned that there is nothing on the plan showing appropriate rubbish and recycling stations for the new builds. We already have huge problems with inadequate bins and poor service. Are the new builds expected to share the existing facilities? I look out on an attractive driveway with native trees and native grasses. If this goes ahead as planned, all that will be gone, and nothing is shown in the plan to replace them. My outlook will be totally green-free. The new builds will be warm, safe, dry homes that will meet the code. But we are asking, how will people live here and feel part of a community without green spaces, community areas where they can meet, and have access to appropriate facilities? Where are the design features that lead to tenant well-being for all the tenants who occupy the site? To me, the new buildings look like containers for humans, not homes for people. Density needs to be balanced with community. Once you have filled the empty lot and the grassy slope with buildings, that's it. You cannot go back and add space. The results, from my point of view, will not be cohesion, but will be further alienation and fragmentation of an existing community. Our voices need to be heard. So for me, tenants are at the heart of everything we do rings rather hollow at the moment.
Are there any questions, councillors? There appear to be none. Okay, all right. Councillor Chung, you're joined up first.
Thanks very much for coming in this morning. Have you engaged with Te Toimahana staff at all on the design of this? Have you?
Yes.
Yep.
They have no input into this, we were told, until it's done. And then they take over charge of being landlords, taking the rent.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'll look into this. Thank you.
Councillor Pennant.
Would you be happy to be part of a working group just to deal with some of these issues if the council would set one up, as we've done before? Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Councillor Randall.
It was said earlier that you'd lost your Lagoima rights. I don't know what that is. So are you having any issue with getting information responses from Te Toimahana?
Well, I'm on the policy focus panel that have tenants reps on with Tōtōpū Mahana. And at the moment, we've been told that they have no input into this, and so there's nothing they can tell us. They're waiting for information the same as we are. But having said that, I have sent 2 emails to the HUP2 team here, and I've heard nothing back.
Right.
So getting information is
okay, thank
tricky.
you.
Well, that's true too, yes. We don't get answers when we ask questions. It's a bit of a fob off at the moment. Nobody seems to know anything.
Councillor Rogers.
Yeah, I was just wondering, the slides that you had shown had focused particularly on the eastern side of the Berkeley-Dallard development. I was wondering, just as a resident there, how much you use the amenities also available in the Central Park development or to the west of Berkeley-Dallard?
How much I use them?
Yeah.
So we're encouraged to group together with Central Park, but that doesn't really work for us as Berkeley-Dallard tenants. We're different communities, really. We're not a single community. And this new building seems to be a third space that we don't know how it fits in.
The links that we do have will be severed anyway by the removal of the paths. As far as the amenity is concerned, we do use Central Park because we have no choice. We've only got a very small community room, and so any big gathering has to go to Central Park. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry we're out of time, but we appreciate you coming
Thank
in.
you.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you.
All right. Now, we will now move on to item 2.1, the decision register updates and upcoming reports. Am I Raina?
Kia ora. Happy to take any questions, otherwise I'll take it as read.
Are there any questions, councillors? There appear to be none. I will move it. Deputy Mayor Foon will second. We'll receive the information. Thank you. All right, that is carried. We are now going to move to go into public excluded. This is the LGFA item, and this is about protecting the privacy of people. Is there any... I'll move it. Is there any questions or debate? There appear to be none. Councillor Panovich will second. Apologies to our guests. We're going to have to ask members of the public to leave the room while we shouldn't be long. Apologies. I know there's some people here for the valedictories.
to the council table. We're going to move to a very important part of our agenda, which is, of course, our valedictory speeches and reflections from our fabulous councillors. Now, just some housekeeping. You've got 10 minutes. You don't have to use all of it, but it's okay if you do. It's okay to read off your speech notes. And I ask councillors not to make any comments or whatever. This is their time. So please be respectful. And you have the option to either read it from where you are or up on the lectern over there where the camera will focus on you as well. Now, I'm just going to go through the order so that you're aware. We've got Councillor O'Neill, Councillor Free, Councillor Kaunihera, and Councillor Pennant. So, without further ado, let's welcome Councillor O'Neill to the mic.
Ti hei mauri ora, ngā mihi nui ki te mana whenua o tēnei rohi, taranaki whānui, te ati awa, Ngāti Toa Rangatira. I'll stand at the table because I feel like this is just as much a speech for my loved ones and my community and ELT as it is rather than getting a good angle on the YouTube live stream. Look, forever etched in my mind as some pretty core childhood memories growing up on council services. I had kids in my class, mates in my friend group that would spend a lot of time in the hospital because the flats that they were living in, the council flats, weren't upgraded yet, and they had black mould on the walls and often suffered with pneumonia. For me and my siblings, we spent quite a bit of time at Kilburnie Library waiting for Dad to pick us up from work. And as we got a little bit older, I spent a good number of nights at the Kilburnie Rec Centre. I still do, probably to about 10 p.m. on some school nights, getting tuckered out and really loving to use that council service. We lived by a simple saying in our family that we share in our family. Somehow that spirit had kind of spilled over the fences in Lyell Bay. And as a teenager, I think it was my mum's strong sense of justice that meant I couldn't often stay quiet. As I got older, one of my first flats in Newtown, I remember our electricity cut out because we didn't have a very good landlord, and I found myself back at Newtown Library again, sitting outside in the cold till 1 a.m. because we didn't have Wi-Fi at home and there were important political Zoom calls to be on and uni assignments to turn in as well. Fast forward a little bit, I kept making submissions. I think I made my first submission to Wellington City Council at the age of 16. And I remember looking around the table at that time thinking, gosh, this lot, some of them are all right, eh? But I didn't see anyone at the table that kind of spoke up for me or represented my family, my whānau, the community I grew up with. Over the years, I've been able to come incredibly close with my siblings, James and Kelly. My dad decided to come along for door knocking, and in particular, the care and support of Alan Platt and Ailish Leyden-Lyons as both my campaign managers through the labour selection process and then on to Te Motu Kārangi have been inseparable. I would also like to make a great deal of thanks to my homie Jack, who's always been an advisor. He's likely watching the live stream now. And just been a really good, calm presence for me to get a debrief over a cold pint at the end of a really rough day. I know Jack will always pick up the phone. Fast forward, on the 12th of October in 2019, I was elected as a city councillor, youngest city councillor at the time, at the age of 21 years old. Serving Wellington has been one of the greatest privileges of my life, and I had a lot of energy. The following February, significant amount, over 1,000 pipes had started to break across the city, and we received note that the first COVID case had been detected in Aotearoa. I remember vividly when the call came, Barbara Makero's senior leadership team and herself sprung into action to organise in their emergency roles, and a new kind of organising emerged. Many other schemes developed fast, including Tupu Toa, which was a Build Back Better option forged with 7 wahine of the previous council. I especially want to give mihi to Jenny Condi, Fleur Fitzsimons, Jill, Tam, Laurie, Rebecca, Iona, and the then Deputy Mayor, Councillor Free. And with both terms, I remember walking into the Mayor's office with a long list of ambitious things to do, and I will report on the progress of just a few of them now. We have funded $439 million into council housing upgrade programs that will result in 825 homes being warmer, drier and safer, so that the kids that I knew when I was growing up don't have to experience that again. Wellington has led the way on housing and eliminating homelessness through the careful work of our community services team, in particular just recently Sahai for her work in picking up the city's safety and wellbeing program. It has been an absolute privilege to learn and work with DCM and Wellington City Mission over the years as well. We've just reached a 6-month milestone on that piece of work, and it was allocated $40 million in the latest long-term plan. For better partnership with iwi and decolonising the environment, the establishment of Pauiwi representation and a new Māori ward councillor. And just this month, Wellington City Council has passed a nationwide first Rainbow Action Plan. We've built 40 kilometres of cycle lanes, we've tripled Wellington's housing capacity in the spatial and district plan, and we've put 200 North Island brown kiwi released into Wellington Hills, and finally, Council has planted 2.3 million plants ahead of our goal in 2030, and Wellington is one of the only cities in the world where biodiversity is increasing, not decreasing. But it's not just about the stats. And I think about the role of a city councillor, particularly one that's quite connected to the ward, as the little things that you can do in their lives. I think about the neighbour in Haitaitai who had been having strife with the council since the 1994 district plan, and we managed to get her tree sorted for her. I think about the kuia at the City Mission that burst into tears when she was told that Wellington City Mission had been provided free zoo passes from our CCO to be able to take her and her friends to the zoo for the first time. And at the end of term 1, in the early weeks before election day in 2021, I was waiting at the bus stop in Kilburnie where I heard the phrase, "Oi Teza," and 2 cyclists come towards me. And to be honest, I thought it was Councillor Foon at first, or Deputy Mayor Foon. But it wasn't. It was a mum and her daughter from the local school that had pulled over on their bikes to tell us they were really proud because the 6-year-old in their family had just learnt that she can take a safe path to school on a cycle lane with her siblings. To my colleagues and friends, ngā mihi nui, especially to Iona Panet and her mahi for standing up for diverse communities. Ngā mihi nui to Councillor Chung, Young, Calvert and Randall. While we may not have a statistically strong relationship in terms of our voting support for one another in the kaupapa, I can say that I've at least worked with all of you on one thing and I can find a common value that we share. I want to acknowledge the impact of Māori leaders and mana whenua partners in this place. Pauiwi Liz Kelly has got a keen eye for tikanga and good decision making. Pauiwi Hohaia has a calm and kind voice during debates. Councillor Weneta, it is difficult to be the first of anything, and I know you've felt quite an insurmountable amount of pressure as Wellington's first elected member representing the Māori ward, but you've done a fantastic job. Councillor Abdurrahman is the man that you need in your corner when you are so driven to complete an outcome. He has been an amazing deputy chair and a good one to have in the corner when fighting for council housing or affordable sports. John Apanovich, my work dad. A ray of sunshine. Always has an excited bit of news to tell me whenever we see one another in a really positive force. Laurie Foon, you make me feel like I've just drunk a health potion when I'm feeling like I'm down to my last heart. Tory, we need more leaders like you. Honest and someone that incredibly holds a lot of people to your heart. Where other mayors have seen things like citizenship ceremonies as a bit of a chore, it is the best part of your week. No matter who you're there to embrace, you're always a really strong advocate. Rebecca Matthews. I don't think Wellington truly appreciates just how fortunate we were to have someone of Rebecca's intellect, humour and practicality leading us through the really difficult time, especially over the last year. Councillor McNulty. As someone who is really fantastic at braving the wrath of the internet, I'd aspire to be such a good communicator as yourself. And finally, to my ward colleagues, Councillor Free and Councillor Brown. We have successfully fought for and acquired the funding for Hui Te Pāra and Kilburnie Skate Park, and then defended them, I believe, no less than 4 times when they've gone up for budget cuts. Lastly, to staff acknowledgements, I fear I've definitely pushing the boundaries of my time here, so I won't spend too long listing people, but to the exceptional staff of Wellington City Council, the cleaners, the security guards, the maintenance workers, the senior leadership team, thank you. You safeguard us, you come in through the night and you make sure the sun rises when we're good to go in the morning. Thank you to my village, the folks of Garrett Street, the Haitaitai Roseneath Labour Party, the Rongotai Labour LEC, Urban Nerds Social Change Collective and my flat. The last whakaaro I just want to leave you all with is that the mahi is not over. I'm particularly concerned with the way that our trans and minority communities have been the subject to increasing hatred, bigotry, and the lies of ongoing culture wars. In particular, I don't believe the systems have changed enough to acknowledge te tiriti o Waitangi or fully enact te rangatiratanga. The othering of vulnerable people is despicable, and I leave you with the challenge as those who are privileged with public office to continue to stand up for vulnerable people. Allyship is not a noun, it's a verb and it requires action. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa.
Kia ora.
Kia ora, Terry.
I now welcome Councillor Free to speak.
Thank you. I must confess, having chaired the Regs Committee and seen people get 10 minutes, I know it goes by very, very quickly. So I'll start with some thanks. So firstly, thanks to the Eastern Ward residents who voted for me in 2013, even though I didn't live there and didn't even hardly know a soul in the eastern suburbs. Somehow they had faith in me and have continued to support me with their votes through 3 further elections till I've got to this place here. And it's been a real privilege to represent you, in the Eastern Suburbs residents, and I do hope that my work has left both the Eastern Ward and the city a better place. And of course, secondly, to my colleagues, because you don't get anywhere without your colleagues. Absolutely nothing done without your colleagues. So I'd just like to acknowledge the Green colleagues that I came onto council with, David and Iona. And Iona, thank you very much for all that you've done to help me with really sound advice over 12 years. I so appreciate it. And also, I'd really like to mention my ward colleagues, and that goes back 12 years. And I've just had fantastic ward colleagues all the way through. Great friendships, collegial working relationships, lots of respect, nobody backstabbing each other. I couldn't have asked for a nicer group of people, but particularly to you, Terry and Tim. Tim, thank you for all the hard work. I see Tim and he's just constantly working, and also for saying encouraging things about my bid for the regional council. And Terry, I'm just in awe of what you've achieved at your age. I couldn't have done it at your age, and I just really look forward to seeing where you're going to go next. I know it'll be something truly awesome. Deputy mayors and mayors, that's been a fantastic group as well. I had the privilege of serving alongside Andy Foster as deputy mayor, and so I've seen that burden of responsibility, and you don't get away from it. It's 24/7. Anything can happen, and you might be in front of the cameras defending something, and it really isn't for the faint-hearted. So Terry, Tori, and Laurie, I just want to acknowledge the work that you've done, steering us through the triennium, landing us safely, and the fact that you've done it with some style and some humour, even towards the end. I think that says a lot. I'd really like to thank the members of the Regs Committee. So it's been a huge privilege to chair the Regs Committee. So Deputy Mayor, my Deputy Chair, Ben McNulty, thank you. Geordie, Mayor Tory, Diane Calvert, Puiwi Liz Kelly, Ray Chung, Nuruddin, I think I've mentioned you all. And thanks also to you, Holden. You were there for a year, and to Tam, who was also there for a year, and to Tony Randall, who's come as a de facto member because he just can't get away from anything related to transport. We've had a solid 3 years. There's been, I counted it up, 31 meetings lasting 140 hours in committee. 589 traffic resolutions, 595 submissions in person. We've delivered as an outcome nearly 30 kilometres of cycleways and walkways, lengthened dozens of bus stops, implemented totally new residence parking schemes in Newtown, Berrinpore and Wadestown, and delivered more kilometres of bus lanes than 7 previous councils combined. Thank you, Geordie Rogers, for pointing that out. So real thanks to you all. I've been able to rely on you to be engaged, to read your papers and to share the workload of the committee, and I've also appreciated everybody's input. And it has actually been nice to have some really positive feedback from staff and colleagues about my chairing as well. So I appreciated that. It's not the easiest job. And Rebecca, thank you for all the chairing you've done so adeptly. You haven't had the easiest of jobs either with your LTP committee, but I think you've done a great job. John, and Nico, I haven't worked as closely with you, but John, I'd just like to say how comforting your presence is, and I love the gifts of food and cups of tea. And Nico, as Terry said, you've done a great job. It's not been easy to be the first person, and we did bond briefly over the hostile architecture and bus shelters. And I was completely on the same page with you about that. I do not think we should have uncomfortable seats in bus shelters at all. So I haven't quite finished with the thanks, but I know time goes by quite quickly. So I just did want to talk about some of the highlights of my 12 years, and I got some of my flyers, and look how young I was back then. Oh my gosh. This life is not good for ageing, I can tell you. So on this is my priorities. Gosh, I've got to start with the right one. So in 2013, it was all about transport. I promised safer cycling routes and better bus services for the city. And a few other things too to do with resilience and community, but I just want to focus on transport because that's really where my passion has been. In 2016, I wanted improved public transport, safer walking and sensible investment in cycling. In 2019, I wanted a step change in affordable, reliable public transport, safer walking and cycling and safer roads. And in 2022, I wanted bus lanes for efficient bus and car journeys for the east. It's safer walking and cycling again. So I've never resiled from my desire to see a connected cycleway network for Wellington, and I still will not. I don't think I'll ever be able to back away from it completely. In 2013, I managed to secure funding to turn the Kilburnie Drainage Reserve into a beautiful walking and cycleway, the Leone Gill Pathway. And at that point, we also decided to build the first ever protected cycleway, the Island-based cycleway, which was opened in February 2016. And suffice to say, it had a very mixed reception. But actually, we didn't lose funding, and we didn't completely lose the confidence of either the government or our public. And we went on. So while we were working out how to revisit and improve the island-based cycleway, we began work in the east and the north, and we rolled out the Hutt Cycleway, the Cobham Drive Cycleway, the Crawford Road Cycleway, the Oriental-based Cycleway. And all of this work was actually quite well received, although I have a box of newspaper cuttings from the Cook Strait News regularly roasting me, and lots of critical letters to the editor. The funny thing though, that paper is gone and the cycleways and I are still here. So we continued. In 2019, we began the rollout through the Pōneke program. We had Coote Street, Onipu Road, Evans Bay Parade, Thorndon Quay, Brooklyn Hill, Cambridge and Kent Terraces. We did cycleways through Newtown and Berempore funded by COVID funding. Some of this has gone into this triennium. We went west, which pleased Rebecca. We finally got up to Glenmore Street and up to Karori, Wadestown, Crofton Downs. And finally, and this is why I can leave council, we finally revisited and improved the island-based cycleway, did the suburban shopping centre, linked it through Berempore to Newtown, and it's no longer the cycleway to nowhere. Yeah. And actually, I was down there and there's so many people using it. And to my delight, we're linking all of this goodness to the work being done out to the hut and beyond through Te Ara Tupua, which is going to open in 2026. Whoa. And we also, this is another reason why I can leave council, we also, through Let's Get Willie Moving, managed to secure a safe crossing across Cobham Drive. That I had an aspiration since I was first elected, and that was intensified after that tragic fatality in 2016. And I just cannot stress how important it is that we've actually got a way for people to cross safely. And that's just a reminder that a lot of work on cycleways come with, pedestrian facilities, retaining walls, improvements to the environment, and all sorts of other great things. There's lots of other things I am proud of. I'm really proud that I was part of a council that supported the living wage back in 2013. Constant vote, 9 to 6, 9 to 6, 9 to 6. It never varied. That was hard work because we were threatened by the Chamber of Commerce. It was unpleasant at times, but we never resiled from it. I did some work promoting drinking water fountains throughout the city. I held the community facilities portfolio and did the early engagement for the Waitohi Library in Johnsonville. I did quite a lot of work securing stormwater upgrades in Kilburnie and Lyall Bay. And community facilities, I had that portfolio for a while, and we managed to get new community facilities in Berempore, Seatoon and Raikawa Street in Strathmore Park. There's been a lot of things. I'll get on to the bus stuff because, there's only so much we can do on the council with buses. But I and Nicola actually came. We submitted to the Regional Council in 2014 about the issue of fares. I advocated for off-peak fares and need for transfers to avoid the unfair costs with having to use 2 buses. I've constantly been on the case about the bus services to the eastern suburbs, and in 2018, after the bus catastrophe, it was a nightmare. But it's been improved. And I've dug this out. I got back to my activism roots and helped save the number 18. And because we saved the number 18, there are still services through Newtown and to all of the universities from both Miramar and Strathmore. Without that, we would not have had those services from Miramar. So there's been all sorts of things, like Terry mentioned, a lot of the work that we do with communities, the beach cleanups, the planting, the little things that we can help solve for people. But I am running out of time, but I just do want to come back to thank yous. Profound thanks to our staff, to our CEOs, to our ELT, especially to the teams I've worked with in the transport environment space. There's too many to name, but Liam and Jenny, all of your teams, you've got some fantastic people. Moana, Sean, there's just too many people to name. The Mayor's Office, the DEM services, we actually have fantastic staff. I know I'm going to miss you all. And finally, just some people in my closest circle, my church family and my real family. It's no secret that my Christian faith is cornerstone for me, and I feel that I'm only in politics by the grace of God. And I really thank my church family for their prayers and practical support. And of course, my own family, my 3 children, their partners, and my wonderful husband, Ross. Thank you, Ross, who is watching online, I think, for dinners, debriefing conversations, and home IT support. You've been a saint. So my passion for buses is really taking me to the next step if I'm lucky. It is about buses. I've also know it's about trains. I've been on some train stations, but it's about transport for me, and that's what I've been passionate about for ages. I know there's going to be lots and lots of great things happening in 2026. You're going to have the town hall, not the town hall, you'll have the library, you'll have new offices, and in early 2027 you'll have your town hall. But you are going to have challenges. So a couple of things. The sludge minimisation plant, please let's get it finished without more budget blowouts, and somehow let's get a decent deal out of Metro Water. So I won't be here around this table. I wish all of you who are going to be the very best. Good luck to those who are standing again, and I hope we'll keep in touch. Thank you.
Councillor Brown.
I need a better angle because I'm older, right? Over the last 3 years, Wellington ratepayers have paid me about $350,000. So I thought I'd start by trying to explain what they got in exchange. And it was an honest appraisal, and it was definitely glass half full and glass half empty. But to start out east with what's happened out there, which has benefited Wellington, and these are not personal achievements. These are achievements that have come about because of working with Holden and Terry and Sarah, and I think we've actually worked really well together, and thank you, and especially to you three for our sort of working constantly together on these initiatives. The big one is obviously the return of the 72-hectare Mata Moana Reserve to Taranaki Whanui, and the intention that the iwi will partner with Wellington City Council on developing that into a reserve, which I think is going to be absolutely fantastic for Wellington and in particular for the east. I've had a lot of battles with Wellington Water to get them fixed pipes out there, and I really believe that residents should not have to worry about their properties slipping away every time it rains, which is definitely still the case with a number of people that I'm aware of in Strathmore in particular. Hatupara Park is a great development, and it's fantastic that it's going to come at zero cost for ratepayers, and in fact the ratepayers will be getting a dividend from the rates that we will be collecting from the airport through that project. So that's a great partnership between the city and a private provider. The Kilberry skate park facility, I'm glad that that is still progressing, but on the flip side, I'd have to say I feel like the council's poor engagement with the soccer and cricket clubs that use Kilberry Park is a bit of a blight on our reputation, and I hope that's something that is fixed. The eastern suburbs are getting significantly better cycleways, and that is evidenced by the fact that in the most recent 6 months, it's a 48% increase in the number of people cycling from the east relative to 5 years ago, which is a tremendous achievement and just shows how useful and valuable those cycleways have actually been. And on the flip side of that, and bad luck, Sarah, but I checked, the number 3 bus service carried 108,874 fewer passengers in the most recent 6 months relative to 5 years ago. That's a 10% drop in the number of people on the bus. So cycling up, bus patronage down. I'm delighted that the council decided not to reduce the city's speed limit to 30 kilometres an hour, and that's something which Tony and I worked on, and I'm pleased that we stop that crazy initiative, which actually I think would have been terrible for out east. But I'm also delighted that the initiative of the Roseneath School and residents saw a safety pedestrian crossing installed on Grafton Road. Looking at the wider impact of council and its consequences for the city, I wish we'd cut more spending. I voted against the office move to Jervois Quay. Bad luck, guys, but I was obviously unsuccessful. I would not spend $20 million fixing a glass house in the gardens. I opposed fencing the waterfront, and I'm pleased we stopped that. I was delighted to see that the Post ranked me, the newspaper The Post ranked me as the councillor who voted against the largest value of LTP spending. But I do support the council's role in the arts. I think it's incredibly important, and I do support council's role with the provision of housing for people who can't afford it in our overpriced housing market. And I'm really proud that our council spends more to reduce the harm of homelessness than Auckland's, which is quite remarkable given how small we are and how big Auckland is. But I'd note that it's only by partnering with private developers that council will be able to meet its housing obligations without imposing unnecessary financial burdens on ratepayers. And I would point everybody to what they've actually been doing out in Lower Hutt as a sign of what can be done by partnering. That council has established a fund to help rebuild the city after a disaster is a big plus. It's very disappointing that central government has not deigned to help with that initiative. For reasons I can only guess at, members of parliament of all parties seem happy to punch down on local government and are uninterested in providing assistance unless an actual disaster is impacting their voters. So I think my relationship with central government I've been really disappointed by their lack of engagement. As for the ill-founded arguments that council is better to own 34% of the airport rather than protecting that capital to be available to fund rebuilding after the inevitable natural disaster, I just say to those people, enjoy the library, the town hall, the convention centre, the sludge facilities, social housing and the many community facilities while you can, because the council does not have the financial resources to rebuild them after a disaster. In fact, it doesn't have even the money to actually rebuild the majority of them. Finally, Three Waters. We voted to create an entity to take over council's drinking water, stormwater and sewerage assets and activities. The people behind this have told us that the plan is to massively increase spending and to treble household charges. When the new council is formed in a few weeks, I hope you will follow through on the unanimous vote of this council to create an independent consumer advocacy group. It's a small initiative which we could stand up for consumers, but it is literally the only thing that this council can do to look after consumers. If you have a choice, you go to work for 3 reasons: because you enjoy the tasks and you find them stimulating and rewarding, because you like the people you're working with, and the third one is the money. I really enjoyed my time on council. The tasks were stimulating and mostly rewarding, but what made the experience glow for me was the people I got to experience it with. I won't talk about the money. Before I started here, I actually, I have some friends on council, and I was told all sorts of terrible things about the people I was going to be working with. But I quickly realized that it was a mistake to focus on the negatives. And whatever reservations I might have about the other people around the table and the other people in the room, it was very important that I had to realize that everybody had a right to be there, exactly the same as my right to be there, and everybody actually had the same number of votes around the table. And if I was going to be able to make any impact at all, it was going to have to be by working constructively and being able to work with other people. And I sincerely hope you all found me honest and reliable in my endeavours. And you felt that if I was supporting your causes, then you benefited from my support. And if I was opposed to what you wanted, I hope that at least you made you realise that not all the opposition were unreasonable. Council is a representative democracy which works best when each constituency gets something. Anyone who votes no delivers constantly gets nothing. The supporters of a pool in Kandala have to find common ground with those who want to reserve in Mata Moana. Several of my friends were very dismayed that I've been so moderate. Why wasn't I totally focused on cutting costs? Why didn't I close the zoo? Why didn't I close everything? They haven't sat at the council table and seen how representatives' priorities are given effect. And it's hard to appreciate the need for compromise unless you're actually in the room. So I've really enjoyed the lesson, but I hope I've actually shown that I am a good compromiser. But what I have to say, this is a brickbat comment, is that I don't feel this council has engaged with business and business people in anything like the positive spirit that is required. There is a foolish level of confrontation and indifference. Businesses create wealth and employment. If Wellington is to be extracted from its current malaise, it's going to be because businesses are thriving. I hope the next council is more receptive to that concept than this one. On a very personal note, as you know, I've had a few challenges for my time on council because of my wife's health and then her dying. And I've really appreciated the kindness and support I received from really everyone through all that. It made a big difference to Gail, it made a big difference to me, and it made a big difference to my family. So your compassion was really tremendously valuable. Thank you to all the staff who've put up with me and my questioning and probing. I hope you found me open-minded and supportive, and at least slightly amusing at times. So thank you very much.
Councillor Winera.
Kōrau, can you hear me?
Yes.
Right. Now, I'll stand briefly because it's council and I'm a stickler for the rules, but I hope you'll all forgive me if I sit down so that I can actually see you outside of the glare of this light above me. ka tangi te hihi, ka tangi te kākā, ka tangi anō hoki a hau, si hai mai ora. Tēnā koutou, tēnei te mihi ki a koutou katoa, ki te whare, ki ngā kaimahi o te taone o te Honganui Ātara o Pōneke. Tēnā koutou, everybody. Thank you very much for receiving me over this very long distance. I hope that the connection is right and you can hear me and that you feel as if I could be sitting there in the room with you, as indeed I would really like to be. For my valedictory speech, I'd like to talk briefly about our achievements this term collectively, and then share some personal lessons that I have learned, and then set out a few thoughts I have about Wellington's future. I'll end with some acknowledgements, which are many and yet undoubtedly will be insufficient to convey the immense gratitude that I feel to this council and to the people of our city. Let me sit down. So firstly, there's a whakatauki that goes, kaore te kumare kōrero mō tōna ke reka, which basically means the kumara does not speak of his own sweetness. So I will speak particularly about our collective achievements this term as a council, about which I think we can all be very proud. Firstly, our housing action plan and our rental inspection scheme, and overall all of our work throughout Haptu and everything as relates to our public housing to uplift the lives of those people who depend on us for a roof over their head. Our Friendly Cities Partnership, our Stellar District Plan, and all of the meaningful work we've done in every single committee of this council to help regular people throughout our city in the last 3 years. Some personal lessons. Firstly, and this one took a while, but nobody wakes up in the morning thinking they're going to be a menace. People make decisions according to the logics that surround them, and even those people who seem in the moment to be working against you are merely acting according to what seems to be most logical or right to them. What I have learnt, though, is what is required to make real change is to challenge those logics and present a more functional and more natural alternative where possible. I've also learnt, in this similar vein, about the necessity of collaboration. And interestingly, I have an idea, which is that norms are almost infinitely preferable to rules. Consensus is, I have learnt, the most robust and enduring form of decision-making and agreement that human beings can form and enter into. Voting, as we do it, on a simple majority should really be a last resort. That resort when time or circumstance do not allow for the slow, human deliberation which was taught to us by our ancestors. Council must embrace deliberations, more workshops, more public discussion, more open discussion between the whole council prior to entering the maraeatea of the council table. Our citizens mostly don't want bickering. Sanctimony and righteous anger feel good in the moment, trust me, I know. But it doesn't always, I have learned, result in enduring generational decisions, the likes of which we need to be making every time we sit around this council table, and which we owe to our citizens and to our mokopuna. To the next Māori ward councillor, whoever that may be, kia wai Māori, good luck. Whoever you are, you will undoubtedly face the challenge of representation as one voice amongst 18. You will also face the challenge of balancing your own views with that of your people, your iwi, different mana whenua groups, and the matakawa Māori living in our city, all of which can sometimes differ. Whatever challenges you face, I have personally learned to find solace in my whakapapa, as I hope you will too. Listen to your old people and consider what is best for your mokopuna. Some of these lessons that I've just described have been learned more easily than others, and some indeed I am still learning. I would like to thank each of you for being patient with me whilst on that journey of learning this term. Okay. In this next part, I'd like to set out a couple of theses that I have for a future Wellington. So I have been a real true believer, a real acolyte of our mayor's and our council's vision since we all collectively set it out, a creative capital where people and nature thrive. I believe in this. I still believe in this because it sets out clearly what makes this city, Wellington, beautiful and important. This vision will not come true, however, by accident or by happenstance. What it will require is strong government, social harmony, and a common civic will to achieve things together. The role of the council in this enterprise should be thus the subject of every debate we have in these chambers, well, in those chambers. For my part, I wish to end this term with 4 contributions corresponding to each of the key words in that vision: people, nature, creative, and capital. Okay, firstly, quick thesis on people. This council is described in legislation as a territorial authority. Although we are not, and indeed should not be, directly responsible for all that goes on within our territory, we must act as a central armature onto which all of the city's clay can be moulded. We must embody a certain idea of Wellington, a beating civic heart. We must own things and do things and be branches from which the shoots of independent community enterprise can arboresce. What this requires as its precondition is the essential acknowledgement that our institution is inextricably tied to land. Being invested in our city is not a weakness, nor a vulnerability, nor a balance sheet risk. It is the very stuff of local government, and future councils must resist at every turn attempts to disintegrate and extricate us and our purpose from the land on which we as an institution and our citizens stand. We are not BlackRock, nor Vanguard, not a miscellaneous holding company. What we are, really, and I'm quite proud of this metaphor, is a hangi shop. We get our goods through the bounty of Papatūānuku, we pull it up out of the ground, and then we distribute it to our relations, in this case, our citizens. Making that hangi is not our weakness. Indeed, trying to rent kayaks or buy books or own real estate or do something else would be to disintegrate the purpose, the raison d'etre of the hangi shop itself, and chillingly would certainly lead to worse hangi. Secondly, a thesis on nature. So despite our collective fatigue from the very often repeated slogans about our natural environment being great in Wellington, it is actually a fact that we Wellingtonians are the most environmentally innovative population living in the country. Our council, Wellington City Council, funds, advises, collaborates with, and enables a myriad of environmental enterprises: predator trapping, bush restoral, food recycling, organics processing, not to mention our unilateral undertakings such as the sludge treatment plant. We've also made nationally unique efforts to act as genuine partners to the traditional and sovereign custodians of this whenua, working jointly with Mana Whenua to restore the ecosystems of the South Coast, reintroduce Kiwi to the hills of Makara, and to share our resources to create a new kind of papakainga on Motukairangi Peninsula, where people and nature can live in harmony. These are not just Māori achievements, not just civic achievements. These are collaborative achievements, and by humbling ourselves and accepting iwi Māori as equal partners in our shared custody of the whenua, this institution gives a good and honourable account of itself. Despite these efforts, we represent a relatively small part of our country's carbon dioxide emissions, which in turn represents a relatively small part of the world's carbon dioxide emissions. Where some would tell you that this is cause for apathy, I would propose that it gives us unparalleled license to experiment, to advocate, and act as a laboratory for the development of new practices and approaches and paradigms, which we can demonstrate, replicate, and then scale up to global levels of impact. Doing our bit does not merely mean achieving net zero in our backyard. It means a deliberate effort to create positive environmental effects to the greatest extent we are able, and to punch above our weight in the great Kiwi tradition, and to lead and to serve the human world in combating the most immediate existential threat to its existence, climate change. Okay, thirdly, creativity. The foremost task of a civic authority with regard to fostering the arts, when vested with such powers as we have, is the creation of a scene. Every great artistic school and movement and institution in history has emerged, more or less, from the following conditions: cohabitation, access to good bricks and mortar spaces, and living in new zeitgeisty times. To paraphrase Brian Eno, great artistic ideas might be articulated by individuals, but they are almost always generated by communities. Every great artist in history lived in a flourishing cultural scene, with contemporaries to work with, and rent to pay, and funding contest, and concert halls to pack out, and galleries to fill. All of these things are, to some extent, within council's control. We can't manufacture individual geniuses, but we can create the conditions for cooperative intelligence to emerge. Finally, a quick thesis on the nature of capitals. Until very recent history, anything worth happening in a country happened in a capital. Our motto, suprema situ, supreme by location in Latin, is not an accident. It's not only geographical location that makes us supreme, but our location at the human nexus point of this nation, and the confluence of ideas and artistic movements that all come to this city to find a home and to create something new. We are a capital that fosters creativity, and we are situated right next to the highest governing body in our country. I think it is worth harnessing some of that inherent Wellington creativity to show our central government new ways of doing things, new ways of being around each other, and new ways of governing our city and our nation. Okay. We've got to the acknowledgements. It's not the Oscars, so I'm not going to thank everybody, but I would like to pay you each a very sincere compliment, which I thought very long and hard about and which I genuinely mean. Firstly, to our Mayor, Tory Whanau, your open-mindedness and your resilience, I think, is a model to all of us. To Councillor Abdurrahman, the strength of your principles is formidable, and I would not like to be on the other side of you any more than I ever have to. To Councillor Opanovich, thank you for your measured, understated integrity and your persistent friendliness. To Councillor Brown, I am in awe of your analytical thinking and thoroughly enjoy your frank style. To Councillor Calvert, I admire your tenacity and also your tactical prowess. The proponents of Kandala Pull have a strong ally in you. To Councillor Chung, I would like to thank you for your literally tireless commitment to community dialogue and to listening to your constituents to an extent that I think is basically unparalleled around this council table. To Councillor Free, I'd like to thank you for showing your constant kindness and Christian charity to all of us around this table. You have always made me feel more at home in the Councillors' Lounge, and it's been lovely getting to know you. To Deputy Mayor Foon, thank you for your patience, particularly with me, and your constant generosity as well. You are a generous soul, and people who share any time with you realize it very quickly. To Matsua Holden, thank you for your holistic and whakapapa-led wisdom that you apply in every decision you make. You are a model of a modern rangatira, and it's been fantastic working with you. I'd like to talk briefly about my auntie Liz. I am in awe of her very patient guidance. I've received a lot of it. And I would like to emphasize to everyone around this table, my auntie's everyday commitment to our people in all of the different roles and wearing all of the different hats that she undertakes. To Councillor Matthews, I admire your resolute commitment to strategic action and am very envious of your pragmatism, which I do not always, as you well know, achieve. To Councillor McNulty, I love your everyman approachability, and I think I could describe you best as the physical embodiment of the pub test. To Councillor O'Neill, I am very impressed by your deep experiential living of your politics. You sitting around this table seems as the most natural thing in the world. Saying the things you do, doing the things you do, believing the things you believe. There's no performance. It's all real, and I am very impressed by that. To Councillor Pannett, thank you for being the critic and the conscience of this council. Once again, your stickability and your principles are very admirable. To Councillor Randall, thank you for your attention to detail and your very technical thinking. You know, spreadsheets around this table must quiver, in fear in their beds at night, thinking that you might be ripping them apart and analysing them the next day at the next committee meeting. To Councillor Rogers, I'm very envious of your synthetic thinking, and I really admire your humility. And in fact, you've taught me a lot in that last regard over the last few years that we've got to work together. Finally, to Councillor Young, thank you for your very entertaining and very incisive wit, also your deep civic roots to this place, and in fact your commitment to this city, which is generational in a way that I think a lot of Māori would appreciate and understand. Finally, I'd like to thank all the workers of this organisation at every level who keep this city running and keep the lights on. Particularly, I'd like to thank my advisors from the Grants Committee, past and present, who have each helped Councillor Young and me to conduct the committee without issue. I'd like to thank my mum, my dad, and my whānau for raising me, my iwi, my army, and my flatmates for teaching me about community, my teachers, my lecturers, my professors for teaching me about the world, my dear friend Barnaby for being a sobering interlocutor, and my partner during some of the hardest times this term, Emily. Finally, my tupuna, individually and collectively, Matua Hoturoa for bringing us to these islands, Matua tō rangatira for birthing our nation, Matua te Rauparaha for gifting us these lands, and Winera te Kānai for birthing my family. This experience has been the privilege of my life. Nā reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.
Kia
Kia ora, Councillor Winera. There's lots of claps happening in the room, but thank you for that beautiful speech. Finally, Councillor Pennant.
I will just stand here because I need a lectern. So, tēnā koutou katoa, ka nui te mihi ki ngā mana whenua o tēnei rohi, Taranaki Wānui and Ngāti Tō Rangatira. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to deliver my reflection on my many years in city government. It would be true to say that any political career, no matter how modest, like my own, relies on the support of many people. Through my time in local government, I have had the privilege of the support of thousands of people. To all of those people, I thank you with the deepest gratitude. More specifically, I also wish to particularly acknowledge the contribution of mana whenua to our council and city. You have the right to express many grievances against us, but have acted with grace and honour. Families, particularly children, pay the price of politics, so my family is offered as a particular thanks. My daughter didn't even have a stay-at-home parent when she was born, so she paid the price. They have been very tolerant when I have not been present, as I have attempted to serve the city. But I am very grateful to the local government sector for giving me the flexibility to enable me to combine my family responsibilities along with my city ones. My parents have my gratitude because they instilled a deep sense of social justice in me through the church in particular, and my late partner for his unstinting support and robust media advice, usually with a painful expression on his face. He's like, "What are you doing now?" I have been so fortunate to have grown up in Pukehino and have now had the privilege to raise my own children here. My constituents in Pukehino have done outstanding work and have made significant contributions to our city. The community in which I live has given me much political and personal support, for which I am so grateful. The many staff who have come to work every day to make the city better, thank you so much for your very hard and inspiring work. I will thank you individually, but there literally would not be time to thank everyone. Members of advisory groups that I've worked with have also done so much to leave Pōneke a better place. Thank you for allowing me to stand alongside you to work for change, particularly in the disability and the rainbow spaces. I would like to genuinely thank all councillors that I have worked with. I have always learned something positive from you, and that is a real gift. I've worked alongside 5 mayors, and I would like to thank all of them for the sacrifice that they made, because it is one of the hardest jobs in Aotearoa. I want to thank the many experts and interest groups that I've worked with on so many issues. Without your assistance, I could not have done my job. My colleagues in the heritage, environmental and anti-roading communities, I owe you a particular thanks. And I've also worked with the Fourth Estate many times. I thank them for fearlessly holding us to account and for covering many critical city issues. And the last acknowledgement I want to make is to the support and friendship of former Mayor Celia Wade-Brown and former Councillor Sue Kedgley. They have both provided wise guidance over many years. And I just want to particularly acknowledge Councillor Free, who has worked her Christian values with many acts of kindness to my family over the years. So, because I'm trained in history, I like to acknowledge that other people have gone before us and have given us a strong foundation to work from in so many ways. The city we live in today could not have been made without the contributions of many people. Politics is always a team endeavour, so I wouldn't dare claim to have achieved anything on my own. I have been proud to be part of councils that have made tangible commitments to Te Tiriti and stopping climate change. We have built bus and cycle lanes, paid the living wage, protected biodiversity, rolled out the Te Kāinga program and better city housing, and much more. More particularly, I've been proud to work alongside 1 or 2 councillors to lead on numerous issues and tried to be a strong and consistent voice for inclusion and the environment. Protecting the town belt, along with former councillor Helen Ritchie, was a highlight, as well as declaring the climate and ecological emergencies. Protection of listed heritage, of course, is my thing, and we have succeeded often. Moves towards a zero waste economy, along with the Deputy Mayor, we are finally making some progress after many, many years. I have done a lot of work around initiatives to green our buildings, and I am proud that Te Matapihi and Tākina are at least. Equity for rainbow and disabled communities has made some progress, but we still have a long way to go. and I have spent many years advocating for owners of earthquake-prone buildings. We may have got a bit further along yesterday, but there's still a long way to go. I have been relentless in my campaign for more transparency, and I want to thank the staff for agreeing to that. Liberalising our dog policies and providing further protection for cats, as well as numerous initiatives to improve walking and to create green spaces, has been part of my work. So as the critic and conscience of the council, I will acknowledge to some failures and in my own role there too. It has taken too long to recognise our obligations to Te Tiriti. The action on the climate has been too slow and too late, at times leaving future generations with too large a burden. On water, the costs will be exorbitant after rates were left too low, and elected members, myself included, focused on larger issues, making assumptions that those with technical expertise were running the system properly. And I will just say that politics has changed over the years while I've been here. Wellington City Council has for many years been a brutal place. Just be really honest, it's been awful. But I would say it has worsened at times with a lack of civility and division from all parts of the political spectrum. The inability to be able to disagree is the deepest threat to our democracy at a national and local level. There has often been only seen to be one way forward when I always believe there are many. But hope cannot be extinguished even in the darkest times, so here are my hopes for the future. Firstly, that the city will continue with its journey to honour Te Tiriti and in so doing engage with its history. This can be done at a local level, as we've started to do in the Aro Valley, and will continue as people ask difficult questions about our past. I also think there needs to be a reckoning about the ownership and control of private land. Rather than extolling the value of the European free market, we need a system that justly compensates or returns land to mana whenua through a variety of mechanisms. And reparation should be the rallying cry. We can no longer ignore that grave moral wrong. Next, Yimby economics needs to be replaced by an economic system that properly values papa taunuku, human rights, and ensures that there will be sufficient resources for future generations. The free market economic model, promoted most loudly by middle-class white men, is fundamentally flawed as it fails to understand deep structural inequalities between groups of people, how such systems rely on the labour of poorly paid or no pay for women and ethnic minorities, and that the Earth's resources are finite. That is a fact. You will likely be familiar with the famous quote from Audre Lorde: "The master's tools will never dismantle the master's house." And this is more apt in this context. Markets only really work for people with structural power and money, and I think it would be helpful, if I can be so brave, to suggest that proponents of such models engage with the deep critiques from many quarters, from socialist to feminist to ecologist, on why this economic system should be euthanised. Doing so will benefit everyone, including the proponents. And finally, you've heard me say this before, I'm going to say it again, local government should not be made smaller or less powerful. It is slowly disappearing, and sometimes due to failures on our part. But I remain committed to the idea of decentralisation and strong city government. This is particularly necessary when Conservative governments are in power. The left has no power unless we are strong at local government level. This council has on many occasions led on progressive change, and it must continue to do so. So just in concluding, I'm deeply, deeply grateful once again for the so many people that have nurtured me and given me so many opportunities in this amazing city. I wish the next council all the best as it attempts to navigate numerous complex problems that local government was just simply not set up to resolve. Mauri mahi, mauri ora, ngā mihi nui ki a koe.
Thank you, Councillor. And that brings us to the end of our speeches. I will move the motion, and I just want to thank all five of you. You are a huge amount of talent and personality and passion that will be greatly missed, next term. And I think Wellington is very lucky to have you all served And I'm really excited to see what you all do next. I'll give some more personal reflections in my speech next week, but I hope, you know, I hope you're really proud of your time here at Council, because you should be. Deputy Mayor will second. Technically, we're allowed debate, but I'm going to recommend that actually we just let our councillors have their moment, and you can share some reflections after this. So let's put that to a vote. Yeah, Deputy Mayor. And that is passed. Thank you, everyone. We've got one more item. So, decisions, register, updates and upcoming reports. We'll take it as read. Are there any questions? Excellent. I will move the motion. Deputy Mayor will second. Any debate? Excellent. Let's go to a vote. And that is passed. I declare the meeting closed. Please join me for karakia. Unuhia, 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 ki te ui, kia wātia, kia māma, tēnā. Wairua, I te ara takatū, ko e rā, e rongo, whaka iria ake, ki runga. Wātia, and we will see you downstairs for lunch.